Umuama was a quiet village tucked deep in the eastern valleys. The trees were tall, the rivers ran clean, and the people lived simple lives. Every morning, women tied their wrappers and carried pots to the stream, while men worked the farms or carved wood under the big iroko tree. Children played with tires and chased goats through the dusty roads, but lately, the peace of Umuama had been broken. Whispers had started, soft at first, like the wind through the palm leaves, but now they were loud enough to reach every compound. Young women were dying, one after the other. At first, the villagers thought it was just bad luck or sickness from the stream, but it wasn't. Each body was found the same way, lying cold on the ground, eyes wide open in fear, and strange bite marks on the neck. 2 little holes, clean and sharp, like the teeth of a snake. But no one ever saw a snake, even the hunters, like old Papa Nwok, who could smell a python from 10 feet away, found nothing. Not one track, not one hiss, not one scale, nothing. The people started to fear the night. Mothers warned their daughters not to stay out late. Fathers carried machetes even to fetch water. The once happy village of Umuama now walked in silence, but there was one man who didn't seem worried. One man who smiled when others frowned. His name was Ebube. Ebube was not like the other men in Umuama. He was tall, dark, and built like a carved statue. His voice was deep, like a drum beat, and his laugh could make even old Mama Ego forget her troubles. When he walked through the market, every young girl would steal glances. Some would even pretend to drop their wares just to have him help them pick it up. He was a bricklayer by trade, but he never lacked anything. Women cooked for him, bought things for him, even fought for his attention. He was charming, and he knew it. But what no one knew, what no one even imagined, was that Ebube carried a deadly secret. Each of the girls who had died had been seen with him days before, but nobody linked it. Why would they? Ebube was too handsome, too perfect, too admired. Only one person watched him closely, Kioma, a quiet girl who lost her cousin, Amaka, in the last mysterious death. She said nothing, but her eyes followed him everywhere. Something didn't sit right with her. She saw how Ebube walked at night, alone and whistling. She saw how he avoided dogs. She once saw his shadow under the moonlight and thought it moved differently. She couldn't explain it, but she knew. Something was wrong with him. Something dark. And one day soon, she would find out what. The next morning, Umuama was filled with quiet murmurs. The birds still chirped, the goats still bleated, but something in the air was off, heavy, like a storm waiting to break. Old Mama Ifeoma sat at the market square, fanning herself slowly with her raffia fan. "This is not ordinary," she whispered to no one in particular. "These deaths are not from any snake of this world." Behind her, 3 girls fetched water, speaking in hushed tones. "Do you know who was the last person seen with Ngozi before she died?" one asked. Another replied, "I think it was Ebube." Kioma heard it. She froze, her clay pot still on her head. Her eyes narrowed. It wasn't the first time she'd heard Ebube's name linked to one of the dead girls. Amaka, her cousin, had spoken about him too. "He's too sweet," Amaka had said, giggling, weeks before her lifeless body was found behind her hut. And now, Ngozi? No, this wasn't just a coincidence. Chioma lowered her pot and walked toward the women. "What did you say about Ebube?" she asked quietly. They paused. One of them laughed nervously. "Nothing, Kioma. Just a market talk." Kioma's voice was firm. "Tell me." They looked at each other. Finally, one of them spoke. "Ngozi was seen near Ebube's hut 2 nights before she died. She told us she was going to his place to talk, but she never said what happened. Then She was gone. Kioma felt a chill crawl down her spine. Her cousin had said the same thing. "We're just talking," Amaka had said. That night, Kioma couldn't sleep. She sat on her bamboo mat, staring at the wall, thinking. She remembered something strange. 2 weeks ago, she'd walked past Ebube's compound late at night. She was on her way to fetch hot water for her grandmother. As she passed, she heard something, soft whistling. It wasn't a tune she recognized. It was cold, haunting. Then she had seen Ebube standing at the door of his hut, eyes closed, as if he was calling something. The sound of a low hiss had followed. She had thought it was her imagination. But now, Kioma stood up and walked to her little calabash under the bed. She opened it and brought out a folded piece of cloth. Inside it was a tiny carving, a little wooden snake. Amaka had given her. "It's from Ebube," Amaka had said with a smile. "He carves things like this. He said I should keep it." Kioma turned it over now in her hand. The snake's eyes were painted red. Something about it felt wrong. Suddenly, her door creaked open. Kioma turned quickly. It was her mother. "Why are you not sleeping?" she asked. Kioma tucked the carving under her wrapper. "I was just thinking." Her mother sighed. "Well, stop thinking too much. This is not your matter. The elders will solve it." But Kioma knew better. This was her matter, because whoever Ebube really was, she would find out, even if it killed her. The sun rose over Umuama, painting the sky with soft pinks and golds. But the village still held its breath, trapped between fear and hope. No one dared to speak too loudly about the deaths, but everyone felt the heavy shadow hanging over them. Kioma didn't tell anyone what she suspected. She kept the carved snake hidden under her bed and watched Ebube from afar. Every time he walked past, she felt a chill, as if the snake in the carving was alive, warning her. Days passed, and another young woman disappeared. This time, it was Ifunanya, a bright girl known for her laughter and skill with weaving baskets. She had been seen walking to the river with a man nobody recognized, but no one could say for sure who. The village hunter searched the woods but found no trace. No footprints, no broken branches, nothing. That night, Kioma sneaked out. She had made up her mind. She would follow Ebube and find the truth. She wrapped herself in a dark cloth and slipped quietly through the village, careful to avoid the lanterns and sleeping dogs. Near Ebube's compound, the air smelled different, thick, wet, like the river after rain. She heard the soft whistle again, the same haunting tune from before. She crouched behind a tree and peeked. Ebube was standing in the moonlight, his eyes closed, hands moving in a strange dance. Then, to Kioma's horror, something began to slither out from beneath his loincloth. A long, shining snake, its scales glimmering like polished black stones. It moved smoothly, curling around Ebube's legs, then lifted its head as if waiting for a command. Ebube opened his eyes and smiled. "Come," he whispered. The snake hissed softly and disappeared into the darkness beyond the trees. Kioma's heart pounded. She blinked, unsure if she was dreaming. Suddenly, Ebube turned sharply and looked right at her hiding place. "Who's there?" he called out, voice low but sharp. Kioma froze. She wanted to run, but found her legs stuck. Ebube stepped forward, a shadow moving fast. She stumbled back, tripping over a root. A cold wind blew through the trees. Then, silence. No footsteps, no sound. Kioma scrambled up and ran to her home, breathless and shaking. Inside, she locked the door and held the carved snake tight. She now knew the terrible truth. Ebube was no ordinary man. His manhood was truly a snake. And that snake was killing the young women. But why? And how? Kioma knew she had to warn the village. But who would believe her? No one had seen the snake but her. No one had heard the whistle but her. And Aboob was still smiling in the sunlight, playing the perfect man. Kioma realized something else. If she didn't stop him soon, more girls would die, and the snake would never rest. The morning sun burned away the shadows, but the fear in Umuama did not disappear. The villagers whispered in hushed tones, but no one dared to speak Aboobi's name openly anymore, except Kioma. She woke early, her heart heavy. The night's terrible vision haunted her. Aboobi's snake manhood, slithering free in the dark, deadly and unseen. She knew she could not face him alone, but who could she trust? Kioma decided to visit Papa Nwok, the village hunter, a wise old man who had tracked wild animals and spirits for decades. If anyone could help, it was him. She found Papa Nwok sharpening his machete outside his hut. His face was weathered like cracked leather, but his eyes were sharp as a hawk's. "Papa Nwok," Kioma said, voice trembling, "I must speak with you. It is about Aboob and the deaths." The old man looked up, eyebrows raised. "Speak, child. What troubles you?" Kioma took a deep breath and told him everything. The whispering snake, the eerie whistle, the girls who died. Papa Nwok listened carefully, his face growing serious. When she finished, he was silent for a long moment. "This is no ordinary man," he said quietly. "There are old stories, old magic, about men who carry snakes in their bodies. They use the snakes to harm others, to take what they want without being seen." Kioma's eyes widened. "What can we do? How do we stop him?" Papa Nwok shook his head slowly. "It will not be easy. The snake is part of him, a living spirit bound to his body. To stop it, you must find the source, the whistle." "The whistle?" Kioma asked. "Yes," Papa Nwok replied. "It is said that when the man plays the whistle, he calls the snake to life. Without the whistle, the snake cannot come out." Kioma clenched her fists. "Where can I find the whistle?" Papa Nwok looked toward Aboob's compound. "That I do not know, but I warn you, child, to be careful. Aboob is cunning and strong. He will not let you discover his secret without a fight." Kioma nodded. "I must try." Papa Nwok handed her a small charm, a carved wooden amulet in the shape of a leopard's head. "Take this. It will protect you from dark spirits. But remember, true strength comes from your heart, not charms." Kioma thanked him and hurried home, clutching the amulet tightly. As she walked through the village, she saw Aboob in the market square, laughing with the women, playing the perfect part. That night, the village lay under a thick blanket of stars, but sleep was a stranger to Kioma. She held Papa Nwok's amulet tightly and stared at the shadows dancing on her hut walls. She knew Aboob's secret was tied to the whistle, but where was it hidden, and how could she find it without being caught? Suddenly, a faint sound drifted through the air, a soft, eerie whistle. It was the same haunting tune she had heard before, chilling and slow, curling like smoke through the night. Her heart thundered. Someone was playing the whistle nearby. Quiet as a shadow, Kioma slipped out of her hut and followed the sound, stepping carefully over roots and stones. The village was silent except for the whistle that called her forward. The melody led her toward the edge of the forest, where the moonlight barely touched the ground. Her breath came fast, but she pushed on, feeling the weight of fear and hope mixing inside her. Then she saw it, a small wooden flute, lying on a rock near a shallow stream, gleaming faintly in the moonlight. The whistle. She reached out to grab it, and froze. From the trees came a low hiss, and a smooth, dark shape slithered through the grass toward her. The snake. Kioma's eyes widened as the serpent glided closer, its scales shining silver under the moon. But then she remembered Papa Nwoke's words and clutched the leopard amulet tightly. The snake paused, then recoiled as if struck by an invisible force. With a gasp, Kioma snatched the whistle and ran as fast as her legs could carry her, the hiss fading behind her. Back in her hut, she locked the door and pressed the whistle against her chest, trembling but alive. The next morning, news spread that Ebube was nowhere to be found. The market was quieter, the men looking uneasy. Kioma knew this was only the beginning. If Ebube lost the whistle, what desperate things would he do to get it back? And what other secrets did his snake manhood hold? Days passed, but Ebube did not show himself. The village of Umuama was restless, like a snake ready to strike. Mothers kept their daughters indoors, and the men gathered in hushed groups, watching every shadow. Kioma held the whistle tightly, but she knew it was only a matter of time before Ebube came for it. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the hills, Kioma sat by the river, staring at the water. The village looked peaceful, but her heart pounded. Suddenly, from the forest's edge, a figure stepped out. Ebube. He looked different. His usual confident smile was gone. His eyes, once warm and charming, were cold and fierce. Kioma stood quickly, clutching the whistle behind her back. "Give me the whistle, Kioma," Ebube said, his voice low and urgent. "You don't understand what you have." "I understand enough," she replied firmly. "The whistle controls the snake you hide. You're the one who brought death to this village." Ebube's jaw tightened. "You think you can stop me? Without the whistle, I am weak, but with it, I am unstoppable. Give it back." Kioma shook her head. "Not until you promise to stop hurting innocent people." A dark smile crossed Ebube's face. "You think I want to hurt them? The snake has a will of its own. It protects me, but it is hungry." Kioma felt a chill. "Hungry for what?" "For life," Ebube said, "and it will not be satisfied until it has taken everything." Before she could react, the ground beneath them trembled. A hiss filled the air, growing louder and louder. From the shadows, the snake slithered out, larger and more terrifying than Kioma had ever imagined. Ebube stepped back, raising his hands. "Run, Kioma! Run before it's too late!" Kioma didn't hesitate. She turned and ran, the sound of scales scraping the earth behind her. As she fled, she realized this fight was far from over. Kioma ran without looking back, heart pounding like a drum. The hiss of the snake was loud behind her, but the forest seemed to close around her like a protective wall. She burst out onto the path leading to her grandmother's hut and slammed the door shut. Her breath came in quick gasps. The whistle lay heavy in her hand, but her eyes were drawn to the leopard amulet Papa Nwoke had given her. Suddenly a thought struck her. The amulet wasn't just a charm, it was a key. She remembered how Papa Nwoke had said the amulet held a secret power to control evil spirits, but only if you knew the right words to say. Kioma knelt and whispered the words her grandfather had taught her long ago, words in the old Igbo language, filled with strength and protection. The amulet glowed faintly, warm against her palm. The snake's hiss faded into silence. Kioma knew she had found her weapon. But could she use it to stop Ebube and the snake forever? Or would she become the next victim of the man whose manhood was a snake? The next morning, the village of Umuama was tense. Word spread quickly that Ebube had been seen near the river the night before, his eyes burning with an unnatural fire. Mothers clutched their children tighter, and men sharpened their machetes, ready for whatever was coming. Kioma knew she couldn't face Ebube alone. She needed help. She ran to Papa Nwoke's hut, hoping the old hunter could guide her. Papa Nwoke was a tall, strong man with a face like weathered bark and eyes that seemed to see through lies. When she arrived, she found him sitting outside, sharpening his spear. His gaze was calm but serious when Kioma told him everything: the deaths, Ebub's secret, the snake, and the glowing amulet. Papa Nwoke nodded slowly. "The snake is ancient," he said gravely. "It is not just a beast, but a spirit bound to Ebubi by dark magic. To break the curse, you must face both the man and the spirit. The whistle is the key, but so is the amulet you carry." Kioma felt the weight of responsibility settle deeper in her chest. Papa Nwoke stood and reached inside a leather bag, pulling out a small leather-bound book with faded writing. "This book holds the songs of binding. If you can sing the right song, the snake will obey you, and Ebub's power will end." Kioma took the book carefully, feeling the rough leather against her skin. "But it won't be easy," Papa Nwoke warned. "Ebub, Sarah, will try to break your spirit before you break his curse. You must be strong." Kioma's jaw tightened. She looked toward the distant hills, where the sun was just rising. "The village depends on me," she said. "I won't fail." The moon was full that night. It hung low in the sky like a giant, silent witness. The villagers were indoors, doors shut, windows locked. Even the crickets seemed to hold their breath. Kioma stood alone in the middle of the village square, barefoot, the hem of her wrapper brushing the dust. In her hand, she held Papa Nwoke's book of binding songs. Around her neck hung the glowing amulet, dim but pulsing with a strange warmth. Behind a nearby hut, Papa Nwoke crouched in the shadows, watching. He clutched his spear and whispered a silent prayer. This was the night they would confront Ebuba. Kioma had spread a trail of ash and camwood from the river to the square. It was an ancient tracking ritual, meant to confuse spirits and lure them into the open. And just as Papa Nwoke had warned, Ebuba came. He appeared from the forest edge, walking slowly, too slowly, his feet barely touching the ground. His eyes were black, his shirt torn, chest rising and falling like something lived inside him. His smile was wide, but wrong. It stretched too far. "Kioma," he whispered, "why are you standing here, alone?" Kioma swallowed hard. "I want to understand you, Ebubi," she said, keeping her voice steady. "No more running, no more hiding. Just tell me the truth." Ebubi tilted his head. "You don't want the truth, Kioma," he said softly. "You want to destroy me." He took a step closer. The amulet around Kioma's neck suddenly glowed brighter. She raised the book. Her fingers trembled, but she opened to the first page, and then she began to sing. The song was old, a deep, humming chant that rose and fell like the wind through bamboo trees. The air around them thickened. The ground trembled. Behind Ebub, the shadow of something long and slithering flickered. Ebub screamed. His body arched backward as if something inside him was trying to burst out. His hands clawed at his chest. "No!" he roared. "Stop it!" But Kioma didn't stop. The whistle, the cursed whistle, fell from his wrapper to the ground, spinning slowly in the dirt. From behind the hut, Papa Nwoke emerged. Now he threw a white powder in a circle around them, crushed bones of the python spirit, and began a chant of his own. Ebub dropped to his knees, coughing, snarling, half human, half snake. His skin shimmered, scaled patches appearing on his arms. Kioma reached down and picked up the whistle. She blew it, not the way Ebuba did, not to summon the snake, but to command it. From the trees, the great serpent appeared, coiled and massive, eyes red, tongue flicking. But it didn't strike. It lowered its head before Kioma. Papa Nwoke's eyes widened. "She has it," he whispered. "The snake obeys her now." Kioma looked at the beast. "Tell me what you are." she whispered, and to her shock, it spoke. In a voice that was deep and echoing, the serpent said, I was cursed to serve him, but you can break the curse. Kioma's hands tightened around the amulet. She wasn't afraid anymore. Not of the snake, not of a boob, not of the truth. The serpent's voice echoed through the stillness like thunder trapped in a clay pot. Its eyes, red like burning charcoal, stared into Kioma's soul. I was once a man, it said, voice rumbling, a warrior of Umudike village. Until jealousy and witchcraft turned me into this. Kioma blinked. You were cursed? Yes, the snake hissed. By the ancestors of Ebub? To serve their bloodline forever. I live through his manhood, and when he dies, I return to the next son. Kioma's mouth dropped open. So, you are not just a snake. You are a spirit. Papa Nwok gasped behind her. Kioma, this is bigger than we thought. Ebub, still on the ground, writhed and groaned. His skin was now fully scaled on his arms and neck. His tongue darted in and out like he was no longer human. You should not have interfered, he growled. I was chosen. This power was mine. Kioma stood over him, unafraid now. Chosen to do what, Ebub? Hurt people? Destroy love? The snake twisted around him, not to protect him, but to bind him. The magic circle Papa Nwok drew glowed brighter. Ebub screamed again. Suddenly, the earth beneath them cracked. From the gap rose a strange mist, green, thick, and alive. The ground spat out a carved stone, glowing with red light, shaped like a broken horn. Papa Nwok dropped his spear. That is it! The Ikenga of binding, the original source of the curse! The serpent hissed louder. Break it, and I will be free. Break it, and Ebub's bloodline will no longer own me. Kioma picked up the stone. It was warm, vibrating with angry energy. Her fingers shook. Wait! Ebub shouted. If you destroy that, you destroy me. Kioma looked at him. Then tell me the truth. All of it. Ebub's face twisted in pain. My father, he warned me never to fall in love. He said the snake would awaken. But I thought, if I could control it, I could have everything. Power, fear, respect, women. Tears slid down Kioma's cheeks. You hurt Ifunanya. You killed her spirit. Ebube's head dropped. She saw it. She heard it hissing. She ran. I tried to explain, but the snake, it wanted her, not me. Papa Nwok stepped forward. Kioma, the choice is yours now. You have the power to end the curse, or pass it on. Kioma raised the Ikenga. The wind howled. The snake's body coiled tighter. Lightning flashed without thunder. And then, a second voice spoke. From the shadows behind the trees, a woman stepped out. She was old, older than the trees, with white eyes and chalk on her face, a red feather tied into her hair. Her voice was a whisper and a roar. You cannot end what you do not understand. Papa Nwok gasped. It's her, the one who made the curse. The witch, Mother Okika. She walked slowly into the circle, untouched by the protective powder. The curse was made for a reason, she said. Ebube's ancestor stole from me, betrayed me, used me. So I cursed his blood. Not just him, but every son born in that line. She turned to Kioma. And now, you carry the whistle. You hold the stone. You command the serpent. You are part of the story now, child. Kioma stared at her, confused. Why me? Mother Okika smiled, sad but powerful. Because you are not just an innocent girl. You are my blood too. The wind stopped. The snake bowed its head lower. Ebub screamed, No, she's lying. Kioma looked at the old woman, then at the serpent, then at the stone. She didn't know what was real anymore, but one thing was clear. This curse was deeper than she thought, and she was part of it now. The moon hung full over Umuama, like an unblinking eye. Every hut was silent, except for one, Kioma's. She sat cross-legged on the floor, the wooden snake Amaka once owned now in front of her. Her fingers trembled as she traced its red-painted eyes. That night, something pulled her toward the truth, a voice in her spirit that refused to let her sleep. Her heart pounded. Suddenly, she stood up and wrapped her wrapper tighter. She had to know. She stepped outside. The wind was cold and the night was quiet. Too quiet. No owls, no frogs, only the sound of her own breath. She walked toward Abube's hut, slowly, barefoot. A dim lantern burned in front of his door, and then she heard it. The whistle. It wasn't loud, but it was sharp, like a flute made from bone. A shiver ran through her. She crouched behind the nearest tree, just a few steps from his window. Inside, she saw him. Abub sat bare-chested on a mat, legs folded, eyes closed. In his hands was a long black whistle. He brought it to his lips and blew once more. Then, something slithered. From the shadows of his mat, a thick, black snake slithered between his legs. But this was no ordinary snake. It was part of him. His manhood twisted and moved, coiling like it had a mind of its own. Kioma gasped. Abuba's eyes snapped open. She ducked. He stood up, listening. Then he whispered something. In a tongue Kioma didn't understand. The snake hissed. Kioma ran. She ran faster than she ever had in her life. Through the market square, past the stream, and straight to the shrine of the old priestess, Mama Uchechi. By morning, the village had gathered. Abube had been tied. Mama Uchechi held the wooden whistle in her hand, wrapped in white cloth. Abub sat in the center of the village, hands bound, looking small now. No longer the mighty, handsome man the women once loved. Kioma stepped forward. She held up the snake carving. I saw everything, she said. Gasps filled the air. The priestess sprinkled white chalk and spoke in an ancient tongue. Then she raised the whistle and blew. A terrible sound followed. The whistle cracked, and so did Abub. He screamed, fell, and writhed. The snake shot out of him, fully grown now, and slithered into the bush. But Abubu didn't rise again. He lay still, dead. The priestess turned to the villagers. This evil entered because you all were blind to the truth. Let this be a warning. Kioma knelt. She was crying, but not from fear, from release. Umuama was quiet for many weeks. No more deaths, no more strange marks. The young women laughed again. The dogs barked freely again. And Kioma, she was never the same.